In the preface of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene explains that power is an integral part of human nature and has been since the dawn of civilization. He argues that the desire for power is universal and has been present in every society throughout history, whether it is political, economic, or personal power. The author emphasizes the importance of understanding the nature of power and how it works in order to navigate through the complex social dynamics of our modern world. Greene stresses that knowledge of the laws of power is crucial for success, but also warns that power can be dangerous and must be used wisely. Furthermore, the preface highlights how the book draws from historical examples and case studies of individuals who have mastered the laws of power to illustrate their effectiveness. Each chapter of the book covers one of these laws, providing detailed explanations and examples of how they can be applied in everyday life. In summary, the preface of the 48 Laws of Power stresses the importance of understanding the nature of power, the dangers of misusing it, and the benefits of mastering the laws of power to achieve success. Law 1: Never outshine the master. Chapter 1 emphasizes the importance of respecting one's superiors and not making them feel inferior. The chapter suggests that people have a natural tendency to want to show off their abilities, but doing so in the presence of their superiors can be detrimental to their success. Robert Greene explains that it is crucial to understand the power dynamics at play and to show deference to those in positions of authority. He warns that if one tries to outshine their master, they risk being perceived as a threat and may provoke a backlash from their superiors. The chapter provides examples of historical figures who failed to follow this law, including the story of Aspasia, a brilliant woman who was too clever for her own good and ended up being ostracized from her community. Conversely, the chapter also presents examples of individuals who mastered this law, such as Louis XIV of France, who made sure that everyone around him understood their place in the hierarchy. In summary, Chapter 1 emphasizes the importance of understanding the power dynamics at play and the dangers of trying to outshine one's superiors. It highlights the need for respect and deference to those in positions of authority in order to navigate through complex social dynamics and achieve success. Law 2: Never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. Chapter 2 advises readers to be cautious when placing trust in friends and to recognize the potential benefits and dangers of such relationships. The chapter suggests that one should not blindly trust their friends, as they may have their own agendas and interests that may conflict with their own. Robert Greene explains that the key to mastering this law is to understand the power dynamics at play and to be strategic in the use of one's friends. He suggests that one should use their friends to further their own interests and goals, but also be aware of their weaknesses and limitations. The chapter provides historical examples of individuals who failed to follow this law, such as Julius Caesar, who placed too much trust in his friends and was eventually betrayed by them. Conversely, the chapter also presents examples of individuals who mastered this law, such as Franklin D. Roosevelt, who strategically used his friends to further his political career. In summary, Chapter 2 highlights the importance of being cautious when placing trust in friends and recognizing the potential benefits and dangers of such relationships. It emphasizes the need to be strategic in the use of one's friends to further one's own interests and goals, while also being aware of their weaknesses and limitations. Law 3: Conceal your intentions. Chapter 3 advises readers to keep their intentions hidden and to be ambiguous about their plans and goals. The chapter suggests that one should not reveal too much about their intentions, as this may make them vulnerable to manipulation and sabotage by others. Robert Greene explains that the key to mastering this law is to be unpredictable and to use deception to one's advantage. He suggests that one should cultivate a reputation for being mysterious and inscrutable, as this will make others unsure of their motives and intentions. The chapter provides historical examples of individuals who failed to follow this law, such as Richard Nixon, who was too open about his intentions and was eventually forced to resign from office. Conversely, the chapter also presents examples of individuals who mastered this law, such as Queen Elizabeth I of England, who used ambiguity and deception to outmaneuver her enemies. In summary, Chapter 3 emphasizes the importance of concealing one's intentions and cultivating a reputation for being mysterious and inscrutable. It highlights the need to be unpredictable and to use deception to one's advantage in order to avoid being vulnerable to manipulation and sabotage by others. Law 4, always say less than necessary. Chapter 4 advises readers to be economical with their words and to avoid revealing too much information. The chapter suggests that one should be strategic in their communication and should only say what is necessary to achieve their goals. Robert Greene explains that the key to mastering this law is to be mindful of one's words and to recognize that words can be used as weapons. He suggests that one should listen more than they speak and that they should choose their words carefully to avoid giving away too much information. The chapter provides historical examples of individuals who failed to follow this law, such as the playwright Jean Racine, who revealed too much about his creative process and was criticized by his peers. Conversely, the chapter also presents examples of individuals who mastered this law, such as the industrialist John D. Rockefeller, who was known for his tight-lipped approach to business. In summary, Chapter 4 emphasizes the importance of being economical with one's words and of only saying what is necessary to achieve one's goals. It highlights the need to be strategic in communication and to recognize that words can be used as weapons. Law 5, so much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. In Chapter 5, Greene argues that reputation is a crucial component of power, and it should be guarded at all costs. The chapter emphasizes the importance of building a positive reputation, as it can take a long time to develop and can easily be destroyed. Greene states that reputation is not based on one's actions alone but on how those actions are perceived by others. He provides examples of historical figures who were able to build and maintain a positive reputation, such as Queen Elizabeth I and Benjamin Franklin, and others who failed to do so, such as Cardinal Richelieu. The chapter also explains that reputation can be used as a powerful tool in one's pursuit of power, as it can help one gain the trust and support of others. However, it also warns readers to beware of those who may try to tarnish their reputation and to take measures to protect it. In summary, Chapter 5 underscores the importance of reputation in the pursuit of power and provides practical advice on how to build and maintain a positive reputation. It emphasizes the need to be mindful of how one's actions are perceived by others and to take steps to protect one's reputation from those who may seek to destroy it. Before we continue, we would like to inform you that we release these summaries in audio format on Spotify before we release them on YouTube in video format, with subtitles. We have also created a goldmine of information which you can get exclusive access to by supporting us on Patreon. You get in-depth summaries plus scripts, usually twice the length of our YouTube content, a list of the top 20 key takeaways and exercises, summary requests, and more. Thank you for the support and don't forget to hit the like button. Law 6, court attention at all cost. In Chapter 6, Greene suggests that one should court attention at all costs. The chapter explains that attention is a valuable commodity, and those who can attract it are often able to wield significant power and influence. Greene provides examples of historical figures who successfully courted attention, such as Oscar Wilde and Madonna, and others who failed to do so, such as the Duke of Windsor. He argues that those who seek power must learn to stand out from the crowd, either through their actions or their image, and that they should not be afraid to be bold or even outrageous in their attempts to do so. However, the chapter also warns readers to be careful not to court negative attention or to become too dependent on the attention of others. It advises readers to cultivate a balance between attracting attention and maintaining their dignity and reputation. In summary, Chapter 6 encourages readers to seek attention as a means of gaining power and influence. It emphasizes the need to stand out from the crowd and to be bold in one's attempts to do so, while also cautioning readers to avoid negative attention and to maintain their dignity and reputation. Law 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. In Chapter 7, Greene advises readers on how to get others to do the work for them while always taking the credit. The chapter begins by stating that no matter how talented one may be, they cannot accomplish anything significant alone. Therefore, one must learn to delegate and make others work for them, but they should not forget to take the credit. Greene provides strategies for gaining credit, such as taking on high-profile projects, hiring people who are loyal to you, and carefully choosing what to delegate. However, he warns against the dangers of taking too much credit and suggests being subtle about it. Greene also notes that those who take credit will inevitably make enemies, and they should be prepared to deal with the consequences. Overall, the chapter emphasizes the importance of delegation and taking credit for work done by others to maintain a position of power. Law 8. Make other people come to you, use bait if necessary. Chapter 8 emphasizes the importance of using bait to make others come to you. The chapter begins with the idea that it is much easier to entice people to come to you than to chase after them. This can be done by using bait in the form of something they desire or need, such as money, power, or social status. The key is to make the bait irresistible and to use it strategically to attract the right people. The chapter provides several examples of how to use bait, such as offering a reward for completing a task, using flattery to win over someone's favor, or offering a job opportunity to attract talented individuals. However, the chapter also warns that using bait can be risky, as it may attract those who are only interested in the bait and not in your goals or vision. Overall, the chapter stresses the importance of being strategic in using bait to attract the right people and achieve your goals, while also being aware of the potential risks involved. Law 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. In Chapter 9, Green emphasizes the importance of action over argument. He argues that words are often cheap and that people can be easily convinced by them. However, actions speak louder than words, and people are more likely to believe what they see than what they hear. Green advises his readers to use actions to their advantage by creating a spectacle, doing the unexpected, and being decisive. He cites several examples of historical figures who won power and respect through their actions, such as Napoleon Bonaparte, who famously led a charge across a bridge in Italy, inspiring his soldiers to follow him into battle. The chapter also warns against the dangers of getting caught up in arguments and debates, as they can be time-consuming and counterproductive. Instead, Green recommends focusing on achieving one's goals through actions, which can be much more effective in winning people over to one's side. Ultimately, the message of this chapter is clear: actions are more powerful than words, and those who take bold and decisive action will always come out on top. Law 10. Infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky. This chapter emphasizes the importance of surrounding oneself with positive and successful individuals and avoiding those who are constantly unhappy and unlucky. According to the author, negativity and failure are infectious and can easily spread to those around them, leading to a decline in one's own success and happiness. Green advises that we should avoid those who constantly complain, as they drain our energy and bring us down. Instead, we should seek out those who are positive, energetic, and successful, as they inspire and motivate us to achieve more. He also cautions against getting too close to those who have a history of bad luck or failure, as their negativity can rub off on us and lead to our own downfall. Overall, the chapter highlights the importance of being mindful of the people we surround ourselves with, as they can greatly impact our own success and happiness. By consciously choosing to be around positive and successful individuals, we can improve our own chances of achieving our goals and living a fulfilling life. Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. In Chapter 11, Green explains how to keep people dependent on you. Green emphasizes that making others dependent on you is a very powerful position, and by creating this dependence, you can gain power over them. According to Green, people are generally willing to give up their independence to someone who they perceive can provide for their needs or solve their problems. To create dependence, Green suggests that you should be seen as indispensable to others. You can do this by providing them with information, resources, or services that they cannot get elsewhere. Additionally, you can create a sense of obligation in others by doing favors for them and creating a feeling of indebtedness. This way, people will be more likely to come to you for help or advice in the future. It is important to note that being indispensable can be a double-edged sword. Overdependence can lead to resentment and eventually, people may begin to see you as a burden. Therefore, it is important to strike a balance between being indispensable and allowing others to maintain their independence. Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. In Chapter 12, Green discusses the use of selective honesty and generosity to disarm others. The idea is to appear honest and generous selectively, creating a sense of trustworthiness that can then be exploited for one's own benefit. By giving something of value, one can create a sense of indebtedness and control over the recipient. The key is to be strategic in the use of honesty and generosity, being careful not to give away too much or appear too honest, which can lead to vulnerability and loss of power. Green advises using honesty and generosity as a means of manipulation rather than genuine acts of kindness, and emphasizes the importance of maintaining control over the recipient. This chapter emphasizes the importance of perception in relationships and the power of manipulation. It also highlights the potential dangers of placing too much trust in others and the benefits of maintaining a sense of control over others through selective honesty and generosity. Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their. In Chapter 13, Green highlights the importance of framing requests for help in a way that appeals to people's self-interest. He argues that when making a request, it is important to focus on the potential benefits to the other person, rather than appealing to their sense of obligation or altruism. By emphasizing how they will benefit, you make it more likely that they will agree to help you. Green stresses that you should never make a request solely for your own benefit. Instead, you should frame it in a way that benefits the other person as well. He also suggests making the request as specific as possible, outlining exactly what you need and why it would be beneficial to them. Finally, he warns against asking for too much at once, as this can make people feel overwhelmed and less likely to help in the future. Overall, the chapter provides valuable insights into how to effectively ask for help and gain cooperation from others by appealing to their self-interest. Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. In Chapter 14, Green highlights the importance of being a master spy in all aspects of life. According to Green, when people let their guard down, they become complacent, and that is when you should strike. He suggests using the guise of friendship to obtain information about people and situations to further your own interests. However, Green also warns that it is crucial to keep your true intentions hidden and to be cautious not to be discovered. Green provides several examples of successful spies throughout history, including Mata Hari and Harriet Tubman, who utilized their charm and ability to adapt to their surroundings to gain vital information for their respective causes. He advises readers to study their targets, learn their weaknesses and strengths, and use that information to their advantage. In conclusion, Green stresses the importance of maintaining discretion while gathering information and using that knowledge to further your own interests. By posing as a friend, one can learn valuable information that can be used to gain power and influence. Law 15. Crush your enemy totally. Chapter 15 states that when confronting an enemy, it is crucial to eliminate them completely. The author advises that once an enemy is defeated, one should crush them to the point where they can never rise again. To achieve this, the author suggests using extreme measures, such as targeting an enemy's loved ones or allies. This will ensure that the enemy is left without any support or resources to fight back. The author also suggests that one should avoid showing any mercy towards their enemy as it can be used against them in the future. Furthermore, the author warns that if an enemy is left alive, they can plot their revenge and come back stronger. Therefore, it is necessary to remove the threat completely. However, the author also cautions readers to be careful when implementing this law and to only use it as a last resort. In summary, this chapter emphasizes the importance of not underestimating one's enemy and the need to eliminate them completely to prevent any future threats. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. In Chapter 16, Green suggests that absence can increase respect and honor. According to the author, people tend to take others for granted when they are constantly present. On the other hand, when someone is absent, they tend to be appreciated more, and their value increases. The author advises people to use this principle to their advantage by taking breaks from time to time or disappearing for a while to create a sense of mystery and increase their allure. However, the author warns against overdoing it and cautions that too much absence can lead to people forgetting about you entirely. Therefore, it's essential to strike the right balance between presence and absence to maintain respect and honor. Additionally, the author advises people to use absence as a tool to manipulate others by creating a sense of urgency and scarcity. By making themselves scarce, they can create demand for their presence and increase their power and influence over others. Law 17, keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability. In Chapter 17, Green discusses the power of unpredictability and how it can be used to keep others in suspended terror. He argues that people are naturally afraid of the unknown, and those who can cultivate an air of unpredictability can maintain power and control over others. Green suggests several ways to create an unpredictable persona, including changing moods, routines, and behavior frequently. He also advises against revealing too much about oneself or one's plans, as this can lead to others taking advantage. Instead, he recommends creating a veil of mystery and secrecy that others cannot penetrate. Furthermore, Green emphasizes the importance of being in control of one's emotions and reactions. He argues that those who can remain calm and composed in the face of chaos and uncertainty are the ones who hold power. In summary, this chapter teaches that being unpredictable can be a powerful tool in maintaining control over others. By cultivating an air of mystery and unpredictability, one can create an aura of fear and respect, and ultimately gain power over those around them. Law 18, do not build fortresses to protect yourself, isolation is dangerous. In Chapter 18, Green warns against isolation and advocates for the importance of building relationships. The chapter emphasizes that complete self-reliance can lead to a false sense of security and isolation, which makes one vulnerable to attack. Instead, Green suggests creating alliances and networks with other people that can provide support and protection. He argues that no one is truly independent and that everyone needs help at some point in their lives. Moreover, the chapter highlights the importance of making oneself approachable and available to others, which can lead to more opportunities and increased power. Green advises against building walls around oneself, both physically and emotionally, and suggests cultivating an open and friendly demeanor that invites people in. Finally, the chapter cautions that while one should be open to others, they should also be selective about the people they let in and ensure they are trustworthy and beneficial to their cause. Law 19, know who you're dealing with, do not offend the wrong person. In this chapter, Green emphasizes the importance of knowing who you're dealing with and avoiding offending the wrong person. It is crucial to identify and study the personalities and the motivations of the people you interact with, as not all people are created equal. You should be cautious when dealing with those who are volatile, unstable, or powerful. Any offense or insult to such individuals could have severe repercussions. You should also keep in mind that people have different values and beliefs, and what may not offend one person might be highly offensive to another. In general, it is best to avoid offending anyone, but if you must, you should do so cautiously and with the utmost care. Green advises that if you are unsure about how someone might react to a particular situation, err on the side of caution and tread lightly. By understanding the people around you and avoiding offending them, you can avoid unnecessary conflicts and setbacks. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. In Chapter 20, Green argues that one should never commit to anyone or anything, as it may limit one's freedom and options. Green advises that commitments should always be made with caution and only when necessary. He argues that promises and commitments can be used against an individual if they become too binding, making it difficult to change course if necessary. Instead, one should keep their options open and maintain the ability to shift their focus when needed. Green stresses that while it's essential to be flexible, one should never appear indecisive or unreliable. It's important to keep others guessing while appearing competent and confident. The author also advises that when making commitments, one should always have a way out or a contingency plan in case things go wrong. Ultimately, the key to avoiding committing to anyone or anything is to maintain a sense of detachment and independence, allowing one to stay in control of their own destiny. Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. In Chapter 21, Green advises that in order to manipulate people, you must know how to play a sucker. To seem dumber than your mark, you should initially let them believe they are in control of the situation. By appearing gullible or naive, you can extract information and gain leverage. Moreover, this strategy works particularly well on those who are confident in their own intelligence or expertise. Feigning ignorance allows you to get closer to your target and better understand their thought process. However, Green cautions that you should not take this strategy too far or appear completely inept, as it can lead to disrespect and a loss of power. It's important to strike a balance between appearing foolish and demonstrating your intelligence and abilities. As with all of the laws in the book, it is critical to use this tactic with caution and for the right reasons, as it can have serious consequences if used improperly. Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. In Chapter 22, Green presents the idea that sometimes surrendering is the best strategy to gain power. Green argues that when facing a superior enemy, surrendering is a wise move as it can buy time, confuse the enemy and offer an opportunity to regroup and strike back at a later time. However, it's important to make the surrender convincing and to use it as a strategic tool. The author points out that using the surrender tactic can help to gain the upper hand in negotiations or conflicts where the other side believes they have the power advantage. By appearing weaker than the opponent, the power dynamics can be reversed, and the enemy may reveal their weaknesses, allowing for strategic planning and repositioning. Green emphasizes that timing is critical when using the surrender tactic. Surrendering too early or too late can be disastrous. It's essential to know when to make a move and when to strike back with a counterattack. Overall, the chapter highlights that surrendering is not always a sign of weakness, but a strategic tool to gain power and position oneself advantageously for future conflicts. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. In Chapter 23, Green argues that the key to success is not spreading your efforts too thin. He stresses the importance of concentrating your forces to achieve maximum impact. To do so, it is essential to focus on a single goal or objective and avoid becoming distracted by other projects or people. To concentrate your forces, Green suggests that you must be ruthless in eliminating any obstacles or distractions that stand in your way. This includes identifying and removing people who do not share your goals, as well as any habits or tendencies that hold you back. To further concentrate your forces, Green advises that you must also be strategic in your actions. This involves focusing your efforts on key areas where you can achieve the most significant impact, while avoiding battles that you are unlikely to win. In summary, Chapter 23 emphasizes the importance of focusing your efforts on a single objective to achieve maximum impact. To do so, you must be ruthless in eliminating obstacles and distractions, strategic in your actions, and avoid spreading your efforts too thin. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. In Chapter 24, Green discusses how to become a perfect courtier, someone who is skilled in the art of impressing and pleasing their superiors. The author argues that a courtier must be aware of the political environment and the desires and weaknesses of their patron. They must have the ability to flatter and manipulate, but also have the skills to make themselves indispensable. To become a perfect courtier, one must master the art of communication, body language, and etiquette. They must learn to express themselves with confidence, dress impeccably, and demonstrate superior knowledge in their field. Furthermore, a courtier must never seek to outshine their patron, and must always be subservient and loyal. The author also emphasizes the importance of networking and building relationships with influential people in order to gain access to power. Overall, this chapter provides a detailed account of how to cultivate a persona that is highly attractive to those in power, in order to rise to the top of the social hierarchy. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Chapter 25 is about the importance of recreating yourself to maintain power. The author believes that we are all constantly changing and adapting to new situations, and that we should use this to our advantage by intentionally recreating ourselves to become stronger and more effective. Green advises that we should never become complacent and should always be looking for ways to improve ourselves. This could involve changing our physical appearance, our mannerisms, our habits, or even our values and beliefs. To successfully recreate ourselves, Green suggests that we start with a clear vision of who we want to become, and then take small steps towards that goal each day. He also emphasizes the importance of being adaptable and willing to change course if necessary. Overall, the chapter encourages readers to embrace change and use it to their advantage, rather than fearing it and becoming stagnant. By recreating ourselves, we can stay ahead of the game and maintain our power and influence. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. Chapter 26 emphasizes the importance of maintaining a clean image and distancing oneself from anything that may tarnish it. According to the author, a person's reputation is their most valuable asset, and once it is lost, it can be difficult to regain. The chapter highlights several historical examples of individuals who were destroyed by their association with corrupt or immoral behavior. Conversely, it also showcases people who maintained their integrity and rose to power by avoiding such behavior. The key takeaway from this chapter is that in any situation, it is crucial to avoid any actions that may be perceived as dishonest, deceitful, or immoral. It is important to maintain a clean image and distance oneself from any wrongdoing or questionable behavior. The author advises readers to be vigilant and not be swayed by the allure of power that comes with certain actions that may compromise their reputation. Overall, the chapter reinforces the importance of integrity and maintaining a good reputation, which can be a powerful tool in achieving success and gaining the trust and respect of others. Law 27, play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. In Chapter 27, Green discusses the power of cult-like followings and how to create them. He explains that people have a natural need to believe in something bigger than themselves, and if you can tap into this need, you can create a loyal and devoted following. To do so, you must create a mythology around yourself or your cause, using symbols, rituals, and stories that reinforce the belief system. You should also keep your message simple and repeat it often to ensure it becomes ingrained in the minds of your followers. Green cautions that creating a cult-like following can be dangerous and advises that you use this power responsibly. He also warns against becoming too caught up in your own myth and believing your own propaganda. Instead, you should remain aware of your followers' needs and desires, continually adapting your message to maintain their loyalty. By creating a cult-like following, you can gain a devoted and powerful group of supporters who will do anything to further your cause. Law 28, enter action with boldness. In Chapter 28, Green advises readers to enter action with boldness. People respect and are drawn to those who show courage and confidence. Hesitation, on the other hand, makes people doubt your abilities and question your motives. When you act boldly, you convey a sense of power and make people think that you have everything under control. To achieve this, you must overcome the fear of failure and take risks. Even if you fail, people will still admire your courage and determination. When you take risks, you also gain experience and become better equipped to deal with future challenges. However, you must also be prepared to back up your bold actions with a plan and the necessary resources to succeed. Acting boldly without preparation can be reckless and lead to failure. Therefore, it is important to strike a balance between boldness and caution. Overall, entering action with boldness can be an effective strategy to gain respect and influence in both personal and professional settings. Law 29, plan all the way to the end. In Chapter 29, Green emphasizes the importance of planning ahead and preparing for every possible outcome. The law states that you must plan all the way to the end and consider the consequences of each step along the way. The author cautions against being caught off guard or allowing unforeseen events to ruin your plans. He encourages readers to think strategically and envision every possible scenario, taking into account both best and worst-case scenarios. By doing this, you can anticipate obstacles and develop contingency plans, minimizing the risk of failure. Green advises that in addition to careful planning, it is also important to remain flexible and adaptable. You should be willing to make adjustments as necessary and pivot when circumstances change. At the same time, you should always have a clear understanding of your ultimate objective, and keep this goal in mind as you move forward. By planning all the way to the end and remaining focused on your goal, you can stay one step ahead of the competition and achieve lasting success. Law 30, make your accomplishments seem effortless. In Chapter 30, Green emphasizes the importance of making your accomplishments seem effortless. He argues that making your work appear easy and spontaneous not only impresses people but also elevates your status. When people see how hard you work, they may feel less impressed and less likely to be in awe of your achievements. According to Green, the key to making your accomplishments seem effortless is to make sure you have mastered your craft. This requires constant practice, discipline, and refinement. You must also make sure that you do not appear to be trying too hard, which can come across as desperate. Instead, you must project an air of ease and nonchalance. This can be achieved through body language, tone of voice, and even the clothes you wear. When done correctly, this technique can increase your power and influence, making people more likely to follow your lead and trust your judgment. Law 31. Control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. Chapter 31 emphasizes the importance of controlling the options available to others in order to manipulate situations to your advantage. The chapter starts with the concept of negotiation and how it's a game of power, where the person who controls the options has the upper hand. Green states that if you control the options, you can lead your opponent to a situation that best serves your interests. It is important to anticipate your opponent's needs and wants in advance, and to plan your moves accordingly. The author suggests using 3 tactics to control the options: creating a situation where the options available to others work in your favor, giving others a limited number of options, and using ambiguity to make it difficult for others to see their options clearly. By controlling the options, you can manipulate the situation in your favor and create a win-win situation for yourself. The key takeaway from this chapter is that by controlling the options, you can manipulate situations in your favor and create win-win scenarios. However, it's important to be ethical and not use this tactic to take advantage of others. Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. Chapter 32 focuses on the importance of playing to people's fantasies. According to Green, most people have unfulfilled desires and are eager to escape their mundane lives. Successful individuals understand this and use it to their advantage by presenting themselves and their ideas in a way that appeals to people's deepest desires. To play to people's fantasies, one must first identify their desires and then present themselves as the answer to their problems. This can be achieved by creating an aura of mystery around oneself, tapping into people's deepest desires, and providing a sense of hope and possibility. However, it is important to note that playing to people's fantasies can be a double-edged sword. It can lead to adoration and loyalty, but it can also lead to disappointment and backlash if one fails to live up to people's expectations. Therefore, it is essential to strike a balance between fulfilling people's fantasies and maintaining a level of authenticity. In conclusion, playing to people's fantasies can be a powerful tool in gaining influence and power. However, it should be used with caution and with a clear understanding of the potential consequences. Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Chapter 33 is about discovering each person's weakness, or their thumbscrew, in order to gain power over them. The chapter argues that every person has a particular weakness, whether it be vanity, insecurity, or fear, that can be used to manipulate them. The key to discovering a person's thumbscrew is to observe their behavior and listen to their words, paying attention to any recurring themes or patterns. Once the thumbscrew is discovered, it can be used to control the person, whether it be by offering them flattery, playing on their fears, or appealing to their desires. However, the chapter warns against using this tactic too often or too overtly, as it can lead to resentment and backlash. Instead, the power should be wielded subtly and strategically, in order to maintain control while avoiding the appearance of manipulation. Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. In Chapter 34, author Robert Greene emphasizes that it is important to act like a king to be treated like one. This involves projecting an aura of royalty through one's bearing, style, and speech. A king must appear dignified, graceful, and confident, and should never show desperation or neediness. The key is to present oneself as someone who deserves respect and deference, rather than someone who is trying too hard to gain it. To achieve this, one must be mindful of their appearance, language, and behavior in public. The goal is to establish a reputation as a person of importance and authority, someone who is worthy of admiration and emulation. This can be done by cultivating an image of oneself as a person of high status, by surrounding oneself with people who are seen as important and powerful, and by projecting an air of mystery and intrigue. Overall, the chapter emphasizes the importance of projecting confidence and authority, as well as the need to carefully manage one's public image in order to gain the respect and admiration of others. Law 35. Master the art of timing. In Chapter 35, Green stresses the importance of mastering the art of timing. Timing is the key to success, and the ability to sense the right moment to act is a sign of a master strategist. Green explains that timing can be affected by various factors such as external events, psychological factors, and the natural rhythms of life. The key to mastering timing is to have a keen sense of observation and awareness of what is happening around you. Green suggests that the right timing can mean the difference between success and failure. The power to control timing can be used to gain an advantage over opponents and to create opportunities that were not previously available. Green also emphasizes the need to be patient and to wait for the right moment to act, rather than rushing into action prematurely. Overall, mastering the art of timing requires an understanding of the dynamics of power and the ability to take advantage of opportunities as they arise. By being patient and waiting for the right moment to act, individuals can increase their chances of success and gain an advantage over their rivals. Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them is the best revenge. In Chapter 36, Green advises readers to disdain things they cannot have and to ignore them as the best revenge. The author argues that when people desire something they cannot have, it creates a feeling of powerlessness and obsession that can be detrimental. The more they crave the unattainable, the more it becomes a symbol of their powerlessness. Therefore, it is important to let go of such desires and focus on things that can be obtained. Green advises readers to redirect their energy towards things they can control, and to ignore the unattainable as it only serves to distract and demoralize. He also suggests that by ignoring the unattainable, one can create a sense of mystery and power around themselves, making them more attractive and desirable to others. The author stresses that ignoring the unattainable should not be confused with giving up or settling for less, but rather, it is about choosing what battles to fight and directing one's energy towards attainable goals. Ultimately, Green argues that the ability to ignore the unattainable is a sign of strength and power, and it is essential for success in life. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. In Chapter 37, Green explains the importance of creating compelling spectacles to captivate an audience's attention. A spectacle is a visual and emotional experience that triggers a response from the audience. To create a compelling spectacle, one must think big, exaggerate, and use symbols that appeal to the senses. The author stresses that the visual aspect of a spectacle is more important than its content. He cites examples of how politicians and public figures use spectacle to manipulate the masses, such as rallies, festivals, and public ceremonies. Creating a spectacle is an effective way to get attention and control the narrative. It's a powerful tool to create an illusion of power, as it taps into people's emotions and beliefs. However, the author cautions that a spectacle must be carefully crafted and managed to avoid negative consequences. A poorly executed spectacle can damage one's reputation and credibility. In conclusion, the ability to create compelling spectacles is a valuable skill that can be used to gain power and influence in different spheres of life. Law 38. Think as you like but behave like others. In Chapter 38, Green emphasizes the importance of fitting in with social norms and behaving like others to avoid being singled out and ostracized. Although originality and uniqueness are admired, they can also make an individual an easy target for criticism and rejection. Green advises readers to conform to social expectations and mimic the behavior of those around them to blend in and avoid being targeted. He argues that the only time it is acceptable to deviate from social norms is when the individual has enough power and influence to change the norm. Otherwise, they should behave like others to avoid drawing unwanted attention. The chapter provides examples of individuals who defied social norms and paid a high price for it. For instance, Salvador Dali's eccentric behavior made him a subject of ridicule, while Oscar Wilde's flamboyant homosexuality led to his imprisonment. Green also cites famous historical figures who pretended to conform while secretly planning their rise to power, such as Julius Caesar and Napoleon Bonaparte. In essence, Green's advice is to play it safe by fitting in and not standing out, especially when you have yet to attain significant power or influence. Law 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. In this chapter, Green discusses the importance of creating a disturbance to draw attention to oneself. He states that if you want to catch fish, you have to stir up the waters first. By creating a disturbance, you can grab the attention of those around you, giving you an opportunity to stand out and make an impression. However, it is important to note that this should be done strategically and not randomly. The disturbance should be planned and controlled to ensure that it achieves the desired effect without going too far and causing damage. Green provides several examples of people who have successfully used this tactic, such as Casanova, who would deliberately create scandalous rumors about himself to become the talk of the town. Overall, this chapter emphasizes the importance of standing out and making an impact in order to achieve success. Creating a disturbance can be a useful tool in achieving this, but it must be done with caution and intention. Law 40. Despise the free lunch. In Chapter 40, Green explains that accepting a free lunch or gift from someone can have hidden costs. The giver may expect something in return, leading to a loss of power for the receiver. Accepting handouts can also create a sense of dependency, making it harder for the receiver to assert their power and independence. Green advises readers to avoid accepting freebies and to always pay for what they receive. This way, you can maintain your independence and avoid being indebted to others. He also suggests that when you do receive a gift, you should make sure to repay the giver in some way, either by reciprocating with a gift of similar value or by showing gratitude in another way. By avoiding the temptation of free handouts and maintaining your independence, you can maintain your power and avoid the hidden costs that can come with accepting gifts. Law 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. In this chapter, Green advises readers to avoid stepping into a great person's shoes. By trying to fill someone else's position, you will always be seen as an imitator and never be as good as the original. Instead, it is better to create your own path and avoid the shadow of the greats. You should focus on developing your own unique skills and abilities, rather than trying to copy someone else's. Furthermore, Green suggests that trying to follow in someone else's footsteps is a form of envy that will only lead to frustration and failure. Rather than being envious of others, you should be inspired by their success and use it as motivation to create your own success. In short, it is better to be your own person and carve your own path than to live in the shadow of another person's greatness. Law 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. In this chapter, Green highlights the importance of understanding the power structure in any given organization. He argues that it is easier to control a group by attacking its leader rather than engaging with the entire group. When the leader is eliminated or weakened, the followers are left vulnerable and more likely to scatter or lose their direction. Therefore, it is crucial to recognize the key players in a group or organization and to assess their influence over the others. Green uses historical examples such as the assassination of Julius Caesar and the downfall of Cardinal Richelieu to illustrate his point. He also warns of the danger of becoming too reliant on a single leader and encourages individuals to develop their own skills and capabilities to avoid being left vulnerable in the absence of a leader. The chapter emphasizes the importance of understanding power dynamics and being strategic in navigating them. It also highlights the need for individuals to take responsibility for their own growth and development rather than relying solely on a leader or authority figure. Law 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. In this chapter, Green emphasizes the importance of working on the hearts and minds of others to achieve success. He explains that by influencing the way others think and feel, you can gain power and control over them. To do this, you must first understand what motivates people and how to appeal to their emotions. One way to work on the hearts and minds of others is to create an emotional connection with them. This can be achieved by finding common ground, sharing personal stories, and expressing empathy. Another approach is to use symbols and images to appeal to people's subconscious desires and fears. Green also stresses the importance of storytelling and creating a compelling narrative that captures people's attention and imagination. To effectively work on the hearts and minds of others, you must also be aware of the power dynamics at play. This means understanding the different roles people play in a given situation and how to navigate them to your advantage. Finally, Green reminds us that these tactics must be used with caution and discretion, as manipulating others can have negative consequences. Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. In Chapter 44, Green presents the concept of the mirror effect. This law suggests that if someone is acting in a hostile or aggressive manner, mirroring that behavior can help disarm and infuriate them. The key is to match their intensity, but not their behavior, which can ultimately make them feel foolish and out of control. This technique can be especially effective when dealing with a difficult or manipulative person, as it forces them to confront their own behavior. However, it is important to be careful when using this technique as it can easily escalate the situation and cause harm. The mirror effect should be used sparingly and only in situations where it is necessary to protect oneself. It is also important to be aware of the potential consequences and to have an exit strategy in case things get out of hand. Overall, the mirror effect can be a powerful tool for disarming difficult people and gaining the upper hand in confrontational situations, but it should be used with caution and only when absolutely necessary. Law 45. Preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. In Chapter 45, Green emphasizes the importance of preaching the need for change while being cautious not to reform too much at once. While change can be necessary, it can also create fear and resistance. To avoid this, it is crucial to present change as a necessary and positive step, rather than an upheaval of the status quo. Green offers the example of the Protestant Reformation, where Martin Luther's reforms ultimately succeeded because he was able to present his ideas in a way that was acceptable to the populace. He did not attempt to change everything at once but focused on reforming specific practices that were widely criticized. In today's world, leaders must balance the need for change with the fear that change can bring. Effective change management involves communicating the need for change, building support, and introducing changes gradually. If done correctly, leaders can make significant and lasting changes without generating excessive opposition or chaos. Law 46. Never appear too perfect. In Chapter 46, Green advises against appearing too perfect, as it creates feelings of envy and resentment among others. By appearing too perfect, individuals may find it hard to relate to or connect with you. It is essential to show some flaws, as this makes you seem more human and approachable. When people see that you have imperfections, they tend to feel less threatened and more comfortable around you. Furthermore, the author cautions against being too self-righteous or overly virtuous, as this can lead to people perceiving you as insincere or even hypocritical. It is better to be humble and acknowledge your faults and mistakes. This will enable you to gain people's respect and admiration. Finally, Green emphasizes that it is important to cultivate your own unique persona rather than trying to be someone else. People are attracted to individuals who are authentic and genuine, so it is important to stay true to yourself. Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. In Chapter 47, Green cautions against overreaching, stating that the most dangerous moment in any endeavor is when victory is near. He advises readers to have clear objectives and to avoid getting carried away in the excitement of the moment. According to Green, the key to success is to know when to stop and to avoid pushing too hard, lest one risk losing everything they have worked so hard to achieve. He suggests that individuals should have a clear understanding of their limits and should avoid trying to achieve more than they are capable of. Green uses the example of Napoleon Bonaparte, who overreached and was eventually defeated after achieving many victories, to illustrate his point. He also points out that one should not be tempted by short-term gains, as these can lead to long-term failure. Instead, individuals should focus on achieving sustainable success by knowing when to stop and by avoiding the pitfalls of overreaching. Ultimately, the key to success is to have a clear understanding of one's goals, to remain focused on those goals, and to avoid getting carried away in the excitement of the moment. Law 48. Assume formlessness. In Chapter 48, Green advises readers to assume formlessness. He argues that one should be adaptable and capable of changing strategies when necessary. When people are rigid in their ways, they are easy targets for manipulation and defeat. Instead, one should remain flexible and adaptable, taking different shapes to fit different situations. Green suggests that being too predictable makes people vulnerable, as their opponents can anticipate their moves and counteract them. By being formless, one can maintain an element of surprise and keep their opponents on edge. This way, they can easily change their tactics and remain a step ahead. Green also notes that formlessness can help people avoid being targeted by others who may be envious or threatened by their success. By blending in and not drawing attention to oneself, they can avoid being perceived as a threat. Overall, the key takeaway from this chapter is that those who are formless are able to adapt to different situations and avoid being targeted by others. They are able to maintain an element of surprise, which can give them an advantage in any situation. Conclusion. In the conclusion of the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene emphasizes that power is a game, and it is up to each individual to choose whether they will be a player or a pawn. He stresses the importance of learning from history and the examples set by powerful individuals throughout time, but also encourages readers to be creative and adaptable in their approach to power. Greene reminds readers that power is ultimately a means to an end, and that it should be used wisely and ethically. He cautions against using the laws of power to manipulate or harm others, and advises readers to use their power to bring positive change to the world. Ultimately, Greene believes that understanding the laws of power and how they operate is essential for success in any endeavor, whether it be personal or professional. The conclusion serves as a call to action for readers to take responsibility for their own power and to use it in a way that is both strategic and ethical.